The sky over Neon Spire was filled with clouds, dark and heavy. Rain fell steadily, washing the metal roads and neon signs of the city. People hurried across the walkways, coats pulled tight, boots splashing through puddles. Darren was one of them. He wore a thin jacket, clearly not meant for this much rain. His boots were old, with cracks in the sides, and his backpack was held together with a patch and hope. But he didn't complain. He never did. Darren worked at the East Side repair yard, where broken machines came in and working ones rarely left. His shift had ended late, as usual. He was tired, soaked, and ready to go home to his small apartment above a noodle shop. As he reached the transit terminal, he noticed a woman standing near the bus entry gate. Her hair was wet, her coat even thinner than his, and she looked lost. She held a fare card in her hand, tapping it again and again, but the gate showed red. No entry. Darren stopped. The woman didn't look up. She kept trying to make the scanner work, her hands shaking slightly. Around her, people passed without a glance. No one cared. This was Neon Spire. Everyone had their own problems. Darren stepped forward. "Card not working?" he asked, voice calm. The woman looked up for the first time. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, but tired. She nodded slightly. "Yes, it's broken, I think." "System's always buggy in this district," Darren said, reaching into his backpack. "Here, use mine." He handed her a small credit chip. She stared at it. "I can't." "Take that," she said quietly. "It's only enough for the bus," he replied with a small smile. "Don't worry, I'm walking tonight anyway." The woman hesitated. Then she took it and scanned it. The gate opened. She looked back at him. "Thank you." "No problem," he said. "Hope things get better." And with that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Alira stepped onto the bus, still holding the credit chip. She didn't sit down. She didn't wipe the rain from her face. She just stood near the back, eyes watching the world outside through the wet windows. She was not who she appeared to be. Alira, Valen CEO of Orion Core, was one of the richest people in the galaxy. Her company developed high-level AI systems, smart grids, and neural cores that powered half the major colonies. Her face was often seen on screens, her name spoken in corporate meetings, political discussions, and even school lectures about leadership. But tonight, she was just a woman who needed bus fare. Earlier that day, she had escaped a trap. Rivals within the corporate world had tried to trap her in a meeting that was anything but safe. She got out through a side door, no guards, no drones, just her instincts and a cloak. She had been running since, avoiding cameras, scramblers, and recognition tech. She had no ID, no active chips, and no credits. On purpose, she wanted to disappear for just one night. But she hadn't expected someone to help her, not in this city. Not without knowing who she was. Alira held the chip tightly. That man, Darren, his name had flashed briefly on the device. He had given her his only travel credit. And he didn't even ask her name. Didn't ask for anything. She sat down slowly. No one had treated her like that in years. Darren reached his apartment after a long walk. His clothes were soaked through. He dropped his bag on the floor and made tea using an old water heater. As he sipped from the chipped mug, he thought of the woman at the terminal. She didn't look homeless, but she looked lost. He hoped she got home safe. Darren had grown up poor. He knew how it felt to be ignored, to need something small and not have it. That's why, when he saw people struggling, he didn't turn away. Even if he had little, he could still help someone else. He sat by the window, listening to the rain. A soft light flickered from the billboard across the street. A smiling robot advertising brain scans and memory backups. Darren rolled his eyes. "Who needs perfect memories?" he muttered, "when you've got real ones." Elsewhere in the city, high above in a hidden part of Orion Core's secondary tower, a screen flashed. Target located Alira Valine. Visual match confirmed at Terminal 19B. Last seen, with civilian, Darren Cayley. Man in a dark suit narrowed his eyes. So, she made contact, he whispered. He didn't care about the man. But he cared that Alira was still alive. Plans would have to change. Morning in Neon Spire was not much different from night. The skies were still cloudy. The tall buildings stood like cold giants, and the streets were filled with tired workers, delivery drones, and the low hum of traffic from the upper levels. Darren woke up before sunrise. He stretched, got ready, and left his apartment with a half-eaten protein bar in hand. He didn't think about the rain or the long walk. This was normal for him. Life in Neon Spire was about routine and staying out of trouble. As he entered the East Side repair yard, he greeted the gatebot with a nod and walked into the noisy, half-broken workspace. Machines beeped. Sparks flew. The smell of burnt wires filled the air. Darren put on his gloves and started work. He had no idea that someone was watching him, high above the city, inside a silent room filled with screens. Alira Valine sat in a chair. Her hair was clean and dry now, her coat replaced with something simple but warm. She wasn't at the main Orion core tower. She was in a hidden location, away from her enemies, and she was staring at a screen showing live footage from a drone focused on Darren Cayley. He fixed 3 drones by hand in 1 hour, her assistant said behind her. No tools, just instinct. I saw, Alira replied softly. She wasn't watching him to spy. She was watching because she was curious. That man had no reason to help her last night. No one would have blamed him if he walked past. But he didn't. He gave without asking. He walked away without expecting anything. Alira didn't know many people like that. In her world, everything had a price. Every favor had a cost. Every move had a reason. But Darren was different. Later that evening, Darren finished his shift and took the same path home. As he passed the small park near the transit stop, he noticed someone sitting on the bench. It was her, the woman from last night. She wore a different coat, and her hair was neatly tied, but it was definitely her. She looked up and gave a soft smile. Hey, she said, remember me? Darren stopped, surprised. Yeah, I do. Everything okay? Yes, I wanted to give this back. She held out a small chip. It has more credits now. One added a few. He took it, unsure what to say. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she replied. Also, I didn't thank you properly for helping me. Darren shrugged. Wasn't a big deal. Just bus fare. To you, maybe. To me, it was more than that. She stood up. Can I walk with you? He nodded. Sure. They walked slowly along the narrow path, lit by soft lights under the trees. The air was calm. So what's your name? Darren asked. Alira, she said simply. Alira, that's a nice name. I'm Darren, she smiled. I know. I saw it flash on the scanner last night. He laughed a little. Right, guess I forgot about that. They talked casually about weather, about broken machines, about the city's strange food drones. Darren spoke about his job, how sometimes he fixed things even when the company told him to throw them away. Feels wrong to waste something still working. He said, machines are like people. Sometimes they just need a second chance. Alira looked at him quiet. He had no idea how deeply those words touched her. The next few days passed the same way. Alira came back. She met Darren after work. They sat in the park, shared snacks, told stories. She never spoke about who she really was. She didn't lie, but she left out the truth. For the first time in years, she felt normal. Darren was easy to talk to. He didn't judge, didn't expect anything, and didn't ask too many questions. He just listened. And sometimes he made her laugh. He once gave her a small tool he had built, himself a scanner that could detect weak signals in broken circuits. Made it from scrap, he said proudly. Still works though. Kind of like me. Alira held the device like it was made of gold. But not everyone was happy. In the depths of a rival corporate building, a man named Kelburn Vos watched reports on his screen. "Alira is alive," he said coldly, "and hiding with a street worker named Darren Cale." His assistant frowned. "Should we take action?" "No, not yet. Let's see what she does. But watch the boy." Kelburn didn't care about kindness. He cared about power. If Alira was alive, his plans were at risk, and anyone close to her could become a problem. Back at the park, under the soft glow of city lights, Alira and Darren sat on a bench again. She handed him a small box. "What's this?" he asked. "Something I built," she said, "using your tool." Inside was a tiny energy cell charger, lightweight and more efficient than most on the market. "You made this?" he asked, impressed. She nodded. "It's not perfect, but I learned a few things from watching you work." He smiled. "Guess we both fix things." She looked at him seriously. "You fix more than machines, Darren." He didn't understand what she meant. Not yet, but something was changing. He felt it, and so did she. The city of Neon Spire was always busy, always noisy. Flying taxis zoomed above the high towers. Neon lights flashed on every street corner, and giant ads spoke in 100 different voices. But in a quiet part of the city, away from all that chaos, Darren and Alira continued to meet each day. They didn't go to expensive restaurants or exciting places. They sat in the park, near a broken fountain that hadn't worked in years. They shared simple snacks and old stories. For Alira, this simple life felt fresh and peaceful. For Darren, it was just his normal world until she entered it. He still didn't know who she really was, and she still hadn't told him. But every day, she came back. One afternoon, Darren arrived early. He sat on the bench with a pack of warm dumplings, steam rising from the bag. When Alira arrived, she looked different. She was smiling more today. Her eyes looked brighter. "I got here early," he said, holding the food toward her. "Thought you might be hungry." Alira took a dumpling and nodded. "You were right. I didn't eat lunch." He raised an eyebrow. "Busy day?" "Yes, I was fixing some things." She paused. "You know, back when I was younger, I wanted to build machines, not lead companies, just build things. With my hands." Darren smiled. "Why didn't you?" She looked away. "Life changed. People had other plans for me." Darren didn't press her. He understood. Sometimes life didn't ask what you wanted. It just pushed you forward. Later, they walked through a quiet tech market. It was full of second-hand parts, old processors, and recycled bots. Darren liked these places. He could always find small treasures here. Alira watched him carefully as he moved from stall to stall. He spoke kindly to the sellers, treated everyone with respect, even those who had little. She noticed the way he helped a small boy who dropped his robot toy, fixing the broken leg with one quick twist of his tool. No one else had even noticed. But Darren did. To Alira, this was a different kind of power. Not the kind that ruled companies or ran cities, but the kind that made people feel seen and valued. She felt that with him. That evening, as they sat again near the fountain, Alira grew quiet. The stars above were dim behind the clouds, but a few still peeked through. "I've been thinking," she said softly. "About what?" "About how we wear masks in this city. Everyone hides something. Some people hide their pain. Some hide their names. Some hide who they really are." Darren looked at her. "Are you hiding something?" She paused. "Yes." He didn't speak right away. Instead, he looked down at the stone under his boot. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "Only if you want to." She blinked. No one had ever said that to her before. People always wanted to know. They always asked questions, dug deeper, tried to pull secrets from her. But Darren gave her space. And somehow, that made her want to share. Back at Orion Corps' secret monitoring center, her assistant watched the screens. The drone that followed Alira now kept a wide distance, hidden behind rooftops and clouds. She's getting close to him. The assistant set into a small cum on the other end. Kelbrand Vos listened with a cold expression. Let her get close, he replied. The closer she is, the easier it will be to break her later. He leaned back in his chair. If she trusts him, then he becomes our key. The next day, Darren didn't go to the repair yard. He had taken a rare day off. Alira had invited him to visit an old library tower on the east side of the city. It wasn't fancy. In fact, it was falling apart. But Darren had once told her he loved old books in forgotten places. The tower was quiet. Dust floated in the air. Old digital books blinked weakly from broken shelves. But Alira smiled as she walked beside Darren. She didn't need high-class rooms or glowing lights to enjoy her time. I used to come here when I was younger, she said, before the world changed. You must have been a curious kid, Darren said, picking up an old manual about robotics. I was, she replied. But then I was told curiosity should only be used to win, to control. She looked down. Darren watched her carefully. You still seem curious, he said. But more free now. She looked at him, surprised. Maybe I am. After the visit, they sat on the library steps, drinking cheap vending machine coffee. The rain had stopped, and a bit of sunlight pushed through the clouds. Darren, Alira said suddenly, why did you help me that first night? He looked at her. Because you needed help. But you didn't know me. I could have been dangerous or lying. Doesn't matter, he said. You were cold. You were stuck. I had a chip, and you didn't. That's it. She stared at him for a long moment. No one ever helped me like that. Not even when I was young, Darren smiled softly. Well, maybe they should have. That night, back at her private room, Alira stood in front of a mirror. She stared at her reflection. The world saw her as a powerful CEO, a billionaire, a force behind half the colony's tech. But Darren saw her as just a person. She touched the collar of her coat. Her heart felt full, but also afraid. She wanted to tell him the truth, but she also didn't want to lose the only person who didn't treat her like a name or a title. Would he still talk to her if he knew? Would he still see her the same? Far away, in the darkness of his office, Kelbrand smiled as he received new information. She's opening up to him, his agent reported. Soon should tell him everything. Good, Kelbrand replied. Then we move. He closed the screen. Let love do our work. The city of Neon Spire never truly slept. Even late at night, the streets buzzed with the hum of delivery bots, glowing lights from vending stalls, and the soft sound of music drifting from open windows. Darren sat on the rooftop of his apartment, looking out over the dark skyline. His small repair drone hovered nearby, slowly cleaning its lens. He sipped lukewarm tea from a metal cup, thinking about Alira. Every day, she returned. And every day, she surprised him. She wasn't like other people in Neon Spire. She wasn't in a rush. She wasn't chasing status. She listened. She cared. She noticed the world around her. And yet, something didn't add up. Darren was not the type to dig into people's pasts, but even he could tell that Alira knew things no normal citizen should know. She could name powerful people, speak about corporate systems, and explain tech processes usually kept behind locked doors. Who are you really? He whispered to the night. His drone blinked once, then returned to its quiet work. The next morning, Alira arrived early. She wore a soft gray coat and carried 2 small sandwiches wrapped in foil. Breakfast, she said, handing one to Darren. He raised an eyebrow. You made these? She nodded. Don't look so shocked. I'm full of surprises. They sat near the broken fountain again. The city around them was slowly waking up. Shopkeepers unlocking doors, Street sweepers humming, a group of kids chasing a delivery bot for fun. You know, Darren said between bites. You talk like someone who's lived 2 lives. Alira paused. What do you mean? You know things. Big things. You understand systems most people never even see. But you walk around like you're one of us. She lowered her sandwich. You're not wrong, she said softly. I have lived 2 lives. Darren didn't speak. He just waited. I used to be someone else, she said. Someone very different. But after what happened, I couldn't go back. He looked at her carefully. What happened? She looked away. One day, I'll tell you everything, but not yet. That evening, as they walked back from the tech market, something strange happened. A loud sound echoed above them, like a high-pitched whistle. A drone zipped down from the sky, landing suddenly in the alley beside them. It wasn't a delivery drone. It was military-grade, painted dark gray, with scanning lights glowing red. Alira froze. Darren stepped forward, confused. Is that a police drone? Alira grabbed his arm. No, move. Before he could ask why, she pulled him behind a trash bin. The drone scanned the area once, hovered for a moment, then flew away. Darren looked at her in shock. Alira. What was that? She didn't answer. Tell me, he said again. What's going on? She stood still for a long moment. Then she said quietly, that drone wasn't random. It was looking for me. Darren's voice dropped. Who are you, Alira? She looked at him, her eyes sad, but firm. I told you, I'll explain everything, but not here. They met again the next night, this time in a quiet building near the city's edge. It was an abandoned workshop, filled with old machines and dusty shelves. Darren had helped repair the place once. Now it was their meeting spot. Alira came alone. She carried a small device in her pocket, one that blocked listening tech. Darren, she said seriously, you deserve the truth. But once I tell you, things may change. He looked at her calmly. I want to know. She took a breath. My name is Alira Valen. I'm the CEO of Orion Core. Silence. Darren blinked once. Wait. The Orion Core? Yes. He laughed nervously. That's a joke, right? No, she said. I've been hiding for days. Someone inside the company tried to trap me, maybe even harm me. I escaped and erased all my digital signals. That's why I didn't have credits that night. That's why I was stuck at the terminal. Darren sat down on a broken chair, shocked. You're one of the richest people in the quadrant. She nodded. And I gave you bus fare? You did, she said with a small smile. Without asking who I was, without expecting anything. Darren didn't know what to say. I came back, she continued, because no one's treated me like you did. Everyone around me wants something. Control, money, status. You just wanted to share dumplings. He looked at her. I liked who I was with you, she said. Not as a CEO, just as a person. For a while, neither of them spoke. The machines around them whirred softly, some still trying to function after all these years. Darren finally stood. You know, he said slowly, I've fixed machines my whole life. Broken ones, lost ones. But people are harder to fix. She looked at him. But you don't need fixing, he said. You just needed someone to see you. Alira felt her eyes sting. And now, she asked, now that you know the truth? He smiled faintly. Now I understand why you always knew more than me. They both laughed, and the air between them felt lighter. But outside the workshop, in the shadows of a nearby rooftop, a silent figure listened. A listening drone had caught just enough of their words before Alira activated her blocker. The figure spoke quietly into a hidden confirmation. She told him, Kelbrun Voss received the message at his base. He leaned forward. Then it's time. He pressed a button, sending out a new order. Target, Darren Kale. Status, watch closely. Prepare to remove if necessary. Back in the workshop, Darren and Alira sat together as the night deepened. Do you plan to go back? He asked. Alira nodded slowly. I have to. If I don't return, they'll take the company. And if the wrong people control it, the world could change for the worse. Then I'll help you, Darren said. She looked surprised. Why? Because I believe in you, he said. Not as a CEO, as Alira. She smiled. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel alone. A storm was coming, not just in the sky, but deep inside the city's core. Neon Spire's largest tower, the headquarters of Orion Core, stood tall above the clouds. It was filled with sharp minds, powerful machines, and secrets that could shake entire worlds. But something had changed inside the building. Since Alira Valine had gone silent, many people had started moving behind her back. At the center of this secret movement was Kelburn Vos, a cold, clever man who once served as Alira's advisor. Now he wanted more than to serve. He wanted to take over. She's weak, Kelburn told his inner team. She's hiding, running. She's no longer fit to lead this company. But she's still alive, one of them warned. And the people still believe in her. Kelburn smiled. Not for long. While the storm gathered, Darren and Alira were deep in a hidden base on the edge of the city. It was an old Orion Core testing facility that had been shut down years ago. Alira had used a secret code to unlock it. Inside, it was dusty and cold, but the power still worked. Screens flickered. Servers hummed. A few old robot arms still moved when touched. This place is safe, Alira said. Kelburn doesn't know about it. Darren looked around with wonder. Feels like a spaceship in here. Alira smiled. I used to build real ones in this room, long ago. They had spent the last few days preparing. Alira had finally reconnected with a small group of loyal engineers and coders. She didn't trust the main tower anymore. Too many spies. Too many traps. We can't win this with money or lawyers, she said. We need to show the people what Kelburn is really doing. And how do we do that? Darren asked. With truth, with evidence. Darren wasn't a hacker or a fighter. He was a repairman. But his strength wasn't in breaking things. It was in understanding how systems worked. He looked at broken machines the way others looked at puzzles. And now Alira needed that mind more than ever. Kelburn is planning something big. She explained. I don't know what, but I feel it. He's going to change everything the company stands for. Then let's break his plan, Darren said. They worked together every day. Alira focused on unlocking encrypted files from inside the Orion Core network. She had built backdoor codes long ago, just in case. Darren studied the city's delivery. Grids and power lines, finding strange patterns. He noticed that energy units were being secretly rerouted to unknown locations. And large shipments of memory cores had vanished without record. He's building something, Darren said. And he doesn't want anyone to know. Maybe a new AI system, Alira guessed. One without limits, Darren frowned. That could be dangerous. Very, she agreed. That's why we have to stop it. One night as they shared a meal beside a humming server rack, Alira looked at Darren with quiet emotion. You know, she said, when I first met you, I thought you were just a kind stranger. But now, I realize you're more than that. He looked at her with a soft smile. You're not so bad yourself. They laughed together, the sound light and real dot, but their quiet moment was cut short by a sharp alarm from the console nearby. Alira jumped up. They found us. A security drone had traced their last data access. Within minutes, small enemy units began to swarm toward the facility. Alira pulled Darren into the control room and sealed the metal doors. We have to leave now, she said, already typing into a side panel. Darren helped gather the main drives they had worked on. He didn't panic. He trusted her. With a loud hiss, the escape tunnel opened. They ran through it, light sensors activating as they moved. Behind them, the base exploded in sparks and metal crashes. But they were already gone. They escaped to the city's undergrid, a maze of tunnels used by old delivery bots. Very few people knew about it. Alira and Darren moved through the narrow paths with flashlights. They stopped only once to rest near a broken lift. "You okay?" she asked. And nodded. "Just a little tired. Not used to running from killer drones," she smiled. "You handled it better than most CEOs would." "I'm not a CEO," he sighed. "No," she replied softly. "You're better." After they reached another safe location, they contacted Alira's most trusted engineer, Mayan, an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "You both did well," Mayan said through the screen. "We've reviewed the data. Kelburn's building a new AI system called ControlNet. It's designed to monitor not just machines, but people. All people." Alira's face turned serious. "That's illegal and dangerous." Mayan nodded. "It will track every person's movement, choices and thoughts, and adjust them. No freedom, no privacy." Darren clenched his fists. "He wants to control everyone. And he's planning to launch it in 2 days, Mayan added. Alira stood straight. "Then we have 2 days to stop him." Back in Orion Core's tower, Kelburn smiled as he watched the first test of ControlNet. A room full of people moved like puppets, following voice commands without question. "Soon," he said, "this city will obey." But across the city, 2 people were preparing a message, one that would reveal the truth to the world. They had stolen files, recorded conversations, and system logs. Now, they just needed one final thing, a signal strong enough to reach every screen in Neon Spire. Doreen had an idea. "We use the tower's own satellite beacon," he said. "If we plug into it directly, we can send the truth to everyone." "It's risky," Alira said, "but it could work." He looked at her. "Let's take back your company." Night returned to Neon Spire, but this time it felt different. Above the glowing towers and speeding air trams, storm clouds gathered. The whole city seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere in the shadows, Doreen and Alira prepared for something bigger than either of them had faced before. They stood near a supply tunnel, just 1 level below the Orion Core Tower. From here, a secret elevator led to the satellite control deck at the top of the building. "That satellite is strong enough to broadcast our message across the entire city," Darren said, checking a small handheld device. "We just need 5 minutes," Alira nodded. "Once people see what Kelburn is planning, they'll turn against him. We'll have truth on our side." "But truth only matters if we survive long enough to show it," Darren replied. She smiled faintly. "Then we'd better survive." The 2 moved through the tunnel quietly, each step careful, each sound measured. Alira had memorized every hidden path in the tower. Years ago, she had designed them herself as escape routes, never thinking she'd use them like this dot at the elevator door. Alira placed her hand on the scanner. It buzzed red. "Blocked," she whispered. Kelburn changed the access codes. Darren stepped forward and opened a side panel. Inside were wires, tangled and glowing faintly. He smiled. "My turn." Using his own toolkit, he began to reroute the scanner. His hands were fast but calm. This wasn't a weapon fight. This was his battlefield. Circuits, power lines, logic. Alira watched him work. There were no fancy tools, no AI to help him. Just Darren, the worker. And yet, he was doing what no Orion Core engineer could do under pressure. In 30 seconds, the scanner turned green. "You fixed it," Alira whispered. "I told you," he said with a grin. "I fix broken things." The elevator moved slowly up the tower shaft. Wind shook the outside of the structure, but inside, everything was silent. Alira turned to Darren. "Once we send the message, we'll need to run. Kelborn's guards will come fast." "I'm ready," Darren said. "Even if they come after you?" He looked at her seriously. You asked me once why I helped you at the bus station. The truth is, I've lived in this city my whole life. I've seen people suffer. I've seen companies crush workers. But I've never had a chance to do something bigger. He smiled. Until now, Alira placed a hand on his shoulder. You've already done more than most. The elevator stopped with a soft ding. The doors opened to a wide, dark room filled with panels, blinking lights, and a giant screen showing the city skyline. This was the satellite control deck. They stepped inside carefully. Alira went to the main control board and inserted the drive holding all their collected evidence audio files, hidden camera videos, and secret blueprints of the ControlNet system. Darren ran to the transmitter console and started aligning the WEM signal. A countdown appeared on the screen. Upload in progress. Time remaining, 5 minutes. Everything was going smoothly. Until the alarms went off. Back in the central tower, Kelburn Voss stared at a blinking red light on his screen. Unauthorized access on the satellite deck. The system warned. He stood. Quickly, she's here. Shut it down? His assistant asked. No, lock them inside. Then send a full security team. Kelborn's eyes narrowed. Capture her. Erase him. On the top floor, metal doors slammed shut. Darren jumped as he heard the loud clang. They locked us in, he said. Alira pressed a button. Emergency override won't work. He cut full access. Then we hold this room, Darren said, until the upload is done. Outside, armored guards moved up the stairwells. Their boots echoed with speed and power. Inside, Darren grabbed a metal rod and looked at the entrance. I'm not a fighter, he said, but I can block a door. Alira looked at him. You don't have to do this. I know, he said, but I want to. With every second, the upload bar filled. 60%, 70%, 85%, then crash. The door shook. Alira grabbed the shock tool from the panel and joined Darren. Together, they stood in front of the control deck doors, waiting for what came next. But instead of an attack, the screen blinked. A new face appeared. Mayan, Alira's loyal engineer. We've reactivated the defense bots on that floor, she said. They'll buy you time. Outside, 2 tower security bots powered up and turned on the approaching guards, using stun lights and barrier shields. Darren grinned. You've got friends in useful places. Alira laughed softly. I used to. Be very busy before I met you. Finally, the upload finished. Message sent. Broadcasting to all major screens. Across Neon Spire, everything changed. On building walls, inside homes, on train platforms and holo devices, the truth played. Kelborn's plan to build ControlNet. His goal to track all humans. His secret experiments. His face cold, greedy, proud. Then, Alira's message appeared. She stood in the broadcast room, speaking clearly. My name is Alira Valen. I am the CEO of Orion Core. I've been silent too long. I was betrayed by someone I trusted. But no more. Orion Core was built to help people, not to control them. I return today, not just as your CEO, but as a human being who believes in freedom. The city watched in silence. Then the city roared. Protests broke out. Workers refused orders. Engineers locked out Kelborn's systems. Loyal staff members rallied to Alira's name. Even city officials began calling for Kelborn's arrest. In his private office, Kelborn smashed his screen. She ruined everything. He shouted, but it was too late. The people had chosen. Back at the satellite deck, Alira and Darren walked out together, the security bots now clearing the way. Mayan says we have full control again, Alira said. Kelborn's network is falling apart. Darren looked at her with pride. You did it. No, she replied. We did it. As the sun finally broke through the clouds the next morning, the people of Neon Spire woke up to a new era, one where truth had won. And standing Together at the top of the tallest tower, a worker and a CEO looked out over the city they had saved. The sky above Neon Spire had never looked clearer. The thick smoke, glowing ads, and strange static lines had all faded overnight. The city, once ruled by cold machines and hidden power, was now open and alive with real voices, news screens across. Buildings still played the message from Alira Valen. It repeated every hour. People stood in crowds to watch. They clapped. They cheered. They cried. But far above them, inside the heart of the Orion Core Tower, Alira sat quietly at a long glass table. This time, she wasn't wearing a business suit or standing in front of reporters. She wore a simple coat. No makeup, no bodyguards. Just herself. Across from her sat Darren, wearing the same jacket from the day they met. They looked at each other, not like a CEO and a worker, but like two people who had gone through something that changed them forever. Alira leaned forward. "We did what we came to do. The truth is out. Kelburn is gone. But now comes the hard part." Darren nodded. "Rebuilding everything." She smiled softly. "Exactly." Outside, workers had returned to their stations not to serve a company, but to clean the mess left behind. Drones flew in patterns, helping restore power, and children ran through the streets again without fear. But Orion Core was no longer the same company. Alira had sent a message to the entire leadership: resign or be removed. Most had stepped down without a fight. The rest were being questioned by city officials. Kelburn himself was missing, though rumors said he'd been caught trying to escape the planet. "I'm placing the company in the hands of a council," Alira explained. 10 members, 5 engineers, 3 city leaders, 1 citizen representative, and 1 worker. Darren raised an eyebrow. "A worker?" She smiled. "Yes, someone who knows how it feels to live below the towers. Someone who understands people more than machines." He looked at her. "And who do you have in mind?" She reached into her coat and slid a badge across the table. It had his name on it. Darren Miles, council member. He stared at it. "You're serious?" She leaned back. "You fixed systems no one else could. You stayed when you could have walked away. You didn't care that I was rich or poor. You only cared that I was in trouble." He was silent for a moment. Then he picked up the badge and nodded. "All right, but I'm still keeping my toolkit." She laughed. "Deal." The next few weeks passed quickly. The city began to heal. Protests turned into town meetings. Walls covered with company ads were now filled with murals, images of unity, of resistance, of a worker handing a stranger bus money. The moment that had started everything. People remembered it. They talked about it. The man who gave without asking. The CEO who hid in rags. The truth that changed everything. Alira didn't hide anymore. She walked freely in the city. People recognized her but didn't fear her. They greeted her with smiles, sometimes with hugs. But one thing hadn't changed: her heart still belonged to the man who saw her as a person before anything else. One evening, as soft lights lit the rebuilt bridge near the bus station, Alira and Darren stood side by side. She looked at the empty bench. "That's where I sat, and that's where I stood," he added. "I almost kept walking, but you didn't." He turned to her. "I didn't know you were powerful. I didn't know your name. But I saw someone who needed help." She nodded. "That moment changed my life." They stood quietly for a while. Then Darren spoke again. "What happens next, Alira?" She turned to face him. "We keep building a better city, a better future." He smiled. "And us?" She looked into his eyes. "That's the part one care about most." The weeks turned into months. Darren moved into a small home near the council tower, not a big house, but one with plants, books, and space to think. Alira visited often, sometimes to talk, sometimes to laugh, sometimes just to sit in silence. They didn't rush anything. They didn't need to. They had already gone through chaos together. Now they were learning peace. The city had changed, but so had they. On the 1-year anniversary of the broadcast, the council called a public gathering. Thousands came to listen. Darren stood on the platform, looking at the same people he once worked beside. He spoke with calm confidence. Today, we remember the truth. That broke the chains. But we also remember the small moment that started it all, a moment of kindness. He paused, then pointed toward the back of the crowd. There she is, he said, smiling. Alira walked up beside him, and the crowd erupted in cheers as she took the mic. A company is not made of machines. A city is not made of towers. People are the heart. And as long as we listen to each other, protect each other, and care for one another, we will never go back to silence. The crowd clapped for a long time, and as they stood together, hand in hand, the city lights behind them sparkled like stars. That night, as the sun set behind Neon Spire's skyline, Darren and Alira walked home slowly. You could have had anyone, he said quietly. I did, she replied. I chose the one who saw me. They didn't need money, power, or fame. They had something stronger. They had each other.